The steak on my plate was still sizzling when it happened. It was a medium rare cut, perfectly charred on the outside and warm pink in the center, but the fork carrying the first bite froze halfway to my mouth. Giles Montgomery stood up, clicking his heavy silver spoon against the rim of his crystal glass to capture everyone's attention. He had that smug, wide grin he always wore when he was about to take credit for someone else's hard work. "We did it," he announced to the crowded room, his voice booming over the chatter. "We officially closed the largest logistics contract of the quarter." Everyone at the long mahogany table clapped. A couple of junior account executives even whooped and raised their glasses in celebration. I sat there chewing slowly, thinking we would toast the shipping client and move on with the meal. I had spent the last 3 years of my life writing the core algorithms that made this deal possible, so I felt entitled to a quiet dinner. I had designed the mathematical models for dynamic routing, built the custom database queries, and spent countless sleepless nights ensuring that our servers could handle thousands of concurrent queries without locking up. "My team," Giles went on, his eyes scanning the faces around the table, "has been absolutely essential to this milestone. Well, most of them at least." He chuckled, though the sound was dry. "Some people simply do not have the speed for where this firm is headed next. Sometimes, dead weight slows down the entire machine, and a good leader knows when to cut the cord." A few people laughed, that kind of nervous, high-pitched laughter from employees who were not quite sure if the chief executive officer was telling a joke or delivering a threat. Then Giles stopped pacing, his cold, dark eyes locked directly onto mine. "Owen Vance," he said, his voice flat and loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear, "is no longer with Vertex Logistics. His employment is terminated, effective immediately." He did not even look at me with respect, just dismissed me like a broken printer that needed to be thrown in the trash. The awkward laughter died instantly. The entire section of the steakhouse went so quiet you could hear the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant clink of silverware from the kitchen. The silence pressed against my chest like a physical weight. Giles continued talking as if I were not sitting exactly 3 feet away from him, describing how I was a misfit for the new strategic direction of the logistics company. He talked about acceleration and friction while I stared at my plate. I did not drop my fork. I did not yell. My hand did not even shake. I just sat there completely numb, watching my reflection in the polished wood of the table. I felt a deep, burning shame, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. The man who had hired me, who had promised me stock options and partnership, was now discarding me in front of the very clients I had helped him secure. I looked down the row of my colleagues. Nisha Patel, who had worked side by side with me in the server room, looked down at her lap. Even the new interns refused to meet my gaze. The shipping clients looked incredibly uncomfortable, as if they had accidentally walked into a private family dispute. Giles raised his glass one last time, offering a toast to momentum and future growth. I did not touch mine. I stood up slowly, my knees feeling weak and disconnected from my body, and turned to walk out. I did not say a word. I did not look back. As I took my first step, a calm, clear voice cut through the silence from the table next to ours. "Excuse me," the voice said. "Are you the engineer who presented that proprietary fleet optimization model at the Dallas Summit 3 years ago?" I stopped and turned around. The speaker was an older gentleman wearing a tailored navy wool suit. He had silver hair combed back neatly, and his expression was entirely serious. "Yes," I answered, my throat dry. "That was me." The man nodded slowly. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a thick card, and slid it across the wooden gap between our tables. "Gordon Croft, Prestige Capital, 11 in the morning tomorrow," he said. That was all. He did not ask any questions, nor did he offer any empty words of sympathy. He simply returned to his drink, leaving me standing there with a new path laid out before me. I did not say goodbye to anyone at the Vertex table. I did not pack up the documents I had brought. I walked out of the restaurant into the cool night air, my head spinning and my chest tight. The heavy business card was pressed firmly into the palm of my hand. I held it tightly, using the physical sensation of the raised lettering to keep myself grounded as I walked toward my car. The city of Chicago felt cold and distant, a sprawling grid of concrete and glass that cared nothing for my years of loyalty or my dedication to my craft. I spent the entire night sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the card. The digital clock on my nightstand was ignored. My mobile phone was buzzing constantly with notifications. Former coworkers and acquaintances who had not spoken to me in years were suddenly sending messages. Some offered empty condolences, while others asked for gossip about the company's internal politics. One manager wrote that sometimes you have to be pushed off a cliff to realize you can fly, a sentiment that made me want to throw my phone against the wall. I knew they were only checking in to satisfy their own curiosity, to make sure they were not next on Giles's chopping block. I did not reply to any of them. I deleted the notifications and kept my eyes on the name of the venture capitalist. At 7 in the morning, I finally got up, showered, shaved, and put on a fresh blue button-down shirt. My hands were still cold, but the initial shock had faded, replaced by a cold, quiet determination. I arrived at the downtown high-rise building of Prestige Capital at 10:30 in the morning, 30 minutes early for my appointment. The lobby was vast, decorated with polished marble and quiet security guards. The receptionist upstairs smiled when I gave my name and told me that the founder was expecting me. The office was quiet and clean, the kind of place where decisions involving billions of dollars were made without any drama. I took the elevator up to the 24th floor. The doors opened to reveal wood-paneled walls and absolute silence. There was no corporate noise here, just the feeling of immense wealth and focused intellect. The assistant pointed me toward a large corner office. Gordon Croft was sitting behind a clean glass desk. He did not offer me coffee or make idle small talk. Instead, he reached down and placed a thick manila folder on the desk between us. "You built a system that is 7 years ahead of anything else currently on the market," Gordon said, looking me dead in the eye. I have reviewed the core architecture notes. I opened the folder. Inside were copies of my original diagrams, routing logic flowcharts drawn in black ink, and notes written in red marker from years ago. One of the pages still had a faint brown stain from a coffee cup I had spilled during an all-nighter in 2019. "They watered your designs down to make a pretty presentation for the board of directors," Gordon continued, leaning forward. "But the engine underneath is pure gold, and it belongs to you." He offered to fund me to rebuild the entire system from scratch, exactly how it was meant to be built. The terms were simple. I would receive total autonomy and full financial backing, but I had to remain completely invisible. No social media updates, no press releases, and no public association with Prestige Capital. We would set up a dummy corporation called Ghost Route LLC to manage the operations. He explained that we needed to build the platform in secret, so that Vertex would not have time to react or steal our progress. "Think you can work in the dark for a while?" Gordon asked, sliding a pen toward me. I looked at the old diagrams in the folder, remembering the hours of labor Giles had stolen from me and the public humiliation I had suffered just the night before. "I will need a day to think about this," I said. "You have 40 minutes. Gordon replied calmly. I did not need the full 40 minutes. I signed the paperwork, walked out of the building, and left my old career behind, ready to build something that would destroy the company that had betrayed me. We set up our operations in a quiet, fifth-floor office space situated directly above a local pharmacy in Evanston. The windows were covered with heavy black vinyl sheets to block the view from the street. The servers were hardwired directly into the building's electrical grid, running on isolated circuits with no external internet connection. We did not use cloud storage, automatic backups, or third-party email clients. Everything we created lived inside that single room, protected by physical security and encrypted local networks. It was a cold, functional space that smelled of ozone and stale coffee, but to us, it felt like freedom. We set up whiteboards along every wall, covering them with database schemas, routing paths, and system design notes. I reached out to Nisha Patel first. She had been the lead routing engineer on my team at the old firm, the one who helped me translate my math equations into functional database queries. When Giles restructured the department last autumn, she was dismissed with 2 weeks of severance pay. She had been working as a temporary contractor, struggling to make ends meet while corporate executives claimed credit for her work. When I called her and told her I had the resources to build the system properly, she did not even ask about the salary. She quit her freelance consulting gig within an hour and showed up at the office the next morning with her laptop and a notebook full of ideas. She wanted to build a database architecture that was clean, modular, and fast. Toby Jenkins came next. He was our quality assurance lead, a stubborn man who treated code like a personal enemy. He had resigned from Vertex Logistics after a vice president told him that software testing did not add value to the quarterly balance sheet. Toby was a perfectionist who could find a single byte memory leak in a million lines of code. He had laughed when I explained the project over a secure line. "I want in," he had said. "Just tell me what name to write on the non-disclosure agreement. I want to build test scripts that will break their systems when they try to copy us." Diana Thorne was the final member of our small group. She was a DevOps specialist who could configure a secure server infrastructure in her sleep. She had been pushed out of the logistics company after she leaked an internal memo, proving that the sales team was inflating the system's uptime reports to avoid paying penalties to their clients. She arrived at our first meeting carrying 2 prepaid mobile phones and wearing a dark hooded sweatshirt. "This time," she said, "we make sure they never see us coming. We will route our traffic through encrypted virtual private networks and secure local tunnels." We lived and worked like ghosts. We did not use common messaging platforms or corporate email accounts. Instead, we communicated through an encrypted chat application running on an open-source mesh network. Every database migration, code update, and server deployment was signed with numerical aliases instead of our real names. Toby ran our codebase through rigorous stress tests, simulating thousands of delivery trucks operating in extreme winter weather conditions across multiple time zones. We worked in shifts, sometimes staying up for 36 hours straight to resolve network bottlenecks. I spent my nights in the corner of the office, fueled by energy drinks and a quiet anger that refused to dissipate. I watched the screen as our new platform, which we named Flow Engine, routed simulated fleets across complex logistics networks. The software was designed to predict traffic delays, weather changes, and fuel consumption patterns before they actually occurred. Under the old system at Vertex, calculating a complete cross-state fleet redirection took 15 minutes. Our new engine did it in 24 seconds. The speed of the system was unbelievable, but we had to make sure it was completely stable before we launched it. Every time the test results came back clean, the quiet room seemed to hum with potential. There were no high fives or celebrations among us. We all knew what was at stake. We were building a digital weapon, and we needed to make sure it was flawless before we revealed its existence. Once every week, Gordon Croft would call my burner phone. The calls never lasted more than 7 minutes. He was always brief, asking for our performance metrics and reminding me to keep our heads down. "Your former employer is already trying to sell a broken version of your code," he warned me during one call. "Let them dig their own grave." We kept our heads down and focused on the work. We did not seek out industry attention or look for outside investment. We simply wrote code, line by line, night after night. By the 4th month, the foundation of the platform was rock solid. We had built a system that did not rely on external application programming interfaces or vulnerable third-party servers. We had created something entirely independent, fast, and secure. We had designed a dynamic load balancer that could reroute entire transport divisions in real time without causing database locking. One evening, as the rain beat against the blacked-out windows, I sat at my desk and watched the dashboard monitor the simulated movement of 900 delivery vehicles. The routes were shifting dynamically, adjusting to simulated highway closures near Dallas without a single error. Nisha stood behind me, holding a cup of tea. "It is ready," she said quietly. I looked at the green lines on the screen, feeling the first real sense of relief since the night at the steakhouse. "Yes," I replied. "It is ready for the real world. We are about to change this industry forever, and Giles Montgomery has no idea what is coming." At exactly 3:20 in the morning, my encrypted phone vibrated on the nightstand. I picked it up to see a message from Diana's alias. "Are you awake?" she wrote. "You need to check the mid-tier freight lines. They just dropped the competitor's software." I sat up quickly, the last remnants of sleep vanishing instantly. I booted up my laptop connected to our local network and ran a tracking diagnostic on the regional shipping lanes. The live data showed that Midline Transit, a medium-sized logistics carrier that had been loyal to Vertex for a decade, had switched their entire routing operation to a new platform 4 days ago. There was no public announcement of the switch, but the digital signature of the software they were using was unmistakable. It was our code, the load optimization scripts, the dynamic rerouting intervals every 18 minutes, and the customized anomaly detection algorithms were identical to the early version of the system I had built before I was fired. They had taken my unfinished work, slapped a new user interface on top of it, and rushed it to their clients under the name RouteNet. I sent a message to the rest of the team. "They are running the prototype," I wrote. Nisha replied within seconds, confirming that the pathing logic was indeed ours. Toby added that they had not even bothered to change the variable names in the core libraries. They were so desperate to show progress to their shareholders that they had stolen our intellectual property without considering the consequences. But they did not understand the core synchronization logic. Without it, the database would eventually desynchronize and fail. Over the next few days, we watched the fallout. The stolen code was designed to work within a specific architecture that Vertex's servers could not handle. We began to see warning signs in the public transit logs. Delivery trucks were being routed down dead-end roads. Temperature-sensitive cargo was sitting on hot docks, and client portals were experiencing frequent outages. The system was collapsing under its own weight because they had tried to deploy our algorithms on outdated legacy database instances. Then the direct inquiries began. Because we had registered Ghost Route LLC as a service provider, carriers who were frustrated with Vertex's system started looking for alternatives. A logistics coordinator from a regional shipping company reached out to us through our secure contact portal. He asked if we could provide a demonstration of our platform. I told him we do not do demos, but we would run a live proof of concept on 10 of his primary routes for 1 week. I knew that once they saw our software in action, they would never go back to the competitor. The proof of concept was a massive success. Our system routed their trucks with zero downtime, reducing their fuel costs by 15% in the first 3 days. The coordinator was stunned. Word began to spread through the tight-knit logistics community. While Vertex was struggling to keep their system online, whispers of a silent, highly efficient alternative were circulating among the drivers and fleet managers. We were slowly taking their market share without running a single advertisement. By the end of the week, we had quietly signed contracts with 5 regional carriers, launching our services in 9 states. Our software ran flawlessly in the background, executing complex calculations without a single hiccup. Meanwhile, the crisis at Vertex was worsening. Toby managed to obtain a recorded copy of an internal company-wide meeting led by Giles Montgomery. The video showed Giles standing in front of a whiteboard, his face red and his voice shaking. "This is not a system failure," he shouted, waving a black marker at the camera. "It is a minor documentation error caused by the legacy team. We had interns making unauthorized changes to the production environment without senior oversight." He looked exhausted, his hair messy and his eyes wide with panic. He was trying to cover up the fact that he had rushed a stolen, unfinished product to market to appease his investors. Nisha laughed as we watched the recording on our office monitor. "He is blaming interns for a fundamental database mismatch," she said, shaking her head. "He has no idea that we have already deployed the corrected version of the platform." I did not laugh. I knew that Giles would become more dangerous as his position became more desperate. The next morning, Gordon Croft called my burner phone. He had seen the reports of Vertex's system failures. "Are you ready to make this official?" he asked. I looked at the live dashboard, which showed our platform outperforming Vertex by 45 to 55% across all active routes. "Yes," I said. "We are ready. We are going to let them watch their system crumble while we take their clients one by one." The certified mail envelope arrived at our office on a Tuesday morning. It was a thick packet made of heavy cream paper, bearing the corporate seal of Vertex Logistics. Inside were 9 pages of legal demands, signed by the company's senior general counsel. It was a formal cease and desist order. The document accused me and Ghost Route LLC of intellectual property theft, corporate espionage, and the unauthorized use of proprietary algorithms. They demanded that we shut down our servers immediately, return all source code, and pay damages. It was a desperate attempt to intimidate us and stop their clients from leaving. I did not panic. I placed the papers in my leather bag and drove directly to the office of Prestige Capital. Gordon Croft read the letter while standing by his window, his face showing no emotion. When he reached the third page, he picked up his desk phone. "Connect me with Morgan," he said. "Tell her to meet us in the small conference room in 45 minutes. Morgan was the lead litigation partner at a prestigious corporate law firm. She was a quiet, middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and an incredibly calm demeanor. She did not waste time with introductions. She sat down, pulled a legal pad toward her, and began reviewing the cease and desist letter. Her pen moved quickly as she made notes in the margins. She had spent decades defending technology startups against predatory corporate lawsuits, and she knew exactly how to handle Giles's legal team. "They are claiming ownership of the core logic you wrote in 2019, Morgan said, looking up from the documents. "But your original employment contract states that any code developed prior to your start date or outside of standard business hours without company resources remains your personal property." She looked at me. "Do you have the original files?" I opened my laptop and showed her the digital archive I had maintained. I had preserved every version of the software, complete with time-stamped Git commit logs, design drafts written on napkin scraps, and the emails I had sent to Giles years ago warning him that the company did not have the right to patent my personal code. I also showed her the original non-disclosure agreement I had signed when I first joined the firm. It explicitly stated that all pre-existing technologies remained under my exclusive ownership unless purchased separately. Morgan smiled, a cold, brief expression that lasted only a second. "They tried to retroactively claim this code by filing a patent application last year," she explained. "And to do that, they needed your signature on an intellectual property assignment form." She pulled out a document from her own folder. "This is the copy of the assignment form they filed with the patent office." Is this your signature?" I looked at the document. The signature at the bottom of the page looked like mine, but the date next to it was from a time when I was out of the country on vacation. I had never seen this document before. I had been on a fishing trip in a remote area of Minnesota with no cellular reception, and I had the hotel receipts to prove it. "They forged your signature to secure the patent," Morgan said. "Under the law, a forged agreement is void from the beginning. It has no legal standing whatsoever. We are going to file a countersuit for forgery under state law and copyright infringement under Title 17, Section 106 of the United States Code." The next morning, Morgan's team filed a 36-page countersuit in Delaware court. We did not send a warning letter to Vertex. We simply filed the complaint and let the journalists find it. Within hours, the legal filing was being discussed on major business news websites. The headline on Bloomberg read, "Logistics Giant Accused of Forgery and Technology Theft by Ousted Architect." The document was a public humiliation for Giles. Detailed with proof of his fraud, later that evening, my phone rang. It was Simon Miller, a senior operations manager at Vertex who had been a close colleague of mine. He was calling from a public phone. "Owen, it is a disaster over here," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They just cut 6 teams today. 24 people were walked out of the building this afternoon with their personal belongings in cardboard boxes. The sales team is in a panic because 3 of our biggest shipping contracts were canceled this morning. Giles is locking himself in his office and refusing to talk to the board of directors." I felt a sudden, brief wave of regret as I thought of the engineers who had lost their jobs because of Giles's greed. But then I remembered the steakhouse dinner and how every single one of them had looked away when I was humiliated. They had stood by and watched me get thrown to the wolves, and now they were facing the consequences of their silence. I did not say anything to Simon. I wished him luck and ended the call. The battle was finally out in the open, and there was no going back. 7 days after we filed our countersuit, the investigative reporter Clara Finch published her full article on the front page of a national business outlet. The headline was simple: "How Vertex Logistics Stole Its Core Tech and Erased the Architect." The article contained a detailed timeline of my work, copies of the forged signature document, and a 4-minute audio clip from my interview where I explained how Giles had ordered the engineering team to pad their performance metrics. The evidence was irrefutable. The public reaction was immediate and devastating for the company. Their stock price dropped by 30% in a single day, and their public relations firm resigned within hours. On social media, truck drivers began posting videos of the failures of the RouteNet system. One driver posted a 45-second video showing the temperature display inside his cargo trailer. The trailer thermometer read -5 degrees, but the company app showed a reading of +18 degrees. "My lettuce is frozen," the driver said to the camera, "but the system says it is warm." I guess the database is lying to save the boss's job. This video quickly went viral, gathering millions of views. Within 48 hours, 18 more drivers posted similar videos, showing incorrect routing directions and frozen cargo. The ultimate blow came when Biopharma, the largest pharmaceutical client in the country, officially terminated their multi-million-dollar shipping contract with Vertex Logistics. They cited the company's inability to guarantee cold chain temperature integrity as the reason for the immediate cancellation. They could not risk shipping critical medical supplies using a broken database system. With their largest client gone, Vertex's systems crashed completely. Their servers went offline, and their customer service lines were redirected to an automated voicemail system. The board of directors held an emergency meeting and voted to remove Giles Montgomery from his position as chief executive officer. There was no public statement, no press conference, and no official farewell. He was simply escorted out of the building by security, leaving behind the ruins of the company he had destroyed. Meanwhile, our team at Ghost Route LLC began our official rollout under the backing of Prestige Capital. We did not launch with a massive advertising campaign or a flashy press event. We simply reached out to the clients who had left Vertex and offered them a stable, secure alternative. Within a week, we had deployed our platform across 21 states, routing thousands of trucks with perfect efficiency. The industry was moving away from the broken promises of Giles and adopting our clean technology. Gordon Croft called me to his office to prepare for a formal press announcement. He told me that Ghost Route LLC was being merged into a new division of Prestige Capital, and that my name would be listed as the Chief Technology Officer on the new corporate structure. "You will be on the nameplate this time, Owen," he said. "No more working in the shadows. You have earned this place through your engineering and dedication." The press conference was held in a high-rise building in Midtown Manhattan. The room was filled with reporters and industry executives. When I stepped up to the microphone, I did not deliver a speech full of corporate buzzwords or expressions of anger. I simply explained how we had built a system based on honest engineering, hard work, and clean code. We did not need to shout to be heard. The data spoke for itself, showing that our routing platform was the new standard for logistics. 4 blocks away, in a small windowless shared office space, Giles Montgomery sat alone at a wooden table. He was watching the live stream of the press conference on a cheap mobile tablet. The battery display in the corner of his screen showed only 9%, and the local wireless connection was slow. He watched as the screen displayed my name and my new title, Chief Technology Officer. He had nothing left, only his regrets and the realization that he had destroyed his own career by trying to steal the work of others. There was no victory party for our team. We returned to our office in Evanston and went back to work. We removed the black vinyl sheets from the windows, letting the afternoon sunlight fill the room for the first time in months. The footer of our client portal now carried a single line of text, architecture designed by Owen Vance. It was not a grand monument, but it was the truth, and that was all that mattered. We had built a system that would last, and we had done it on our own terms.